Hello, welcome back to RC Video Reviews. Today we're taking a look at the Sunnysky x2820 800kv. This is a 3542 motor that weighs in at about 138 grams and it should produce around 700 watts. Alright, when I built the Vanquish, I had an SK3 3542 800 in stock. I've done a couple of motor test videos with that, and the motor performed very well. I don't have any complaints about that motor. The Vanquish spec motor, which is a torque motor, they recommend a 12.6 prop, and on the SK3 I was seeing power draw numbers that made me want to run an 11.6 master air screw instead of a 12.6. To be fair, I didn't have a 12.6 APC in my stash when I did that testing. So I wound up putting an 11.6 prop on there, and the plane performed beautifully. I have no complaints about the performance of the plane, the performance of the motor. It's everything I could have asked for. The only reason I'm trying out the Sunnysky is because I'm a review channel, and there is an alternative motor to that SK3. I've never used this Sunnysky motor. I have used other Sunnysky motors and they're very good. And when I was out shopping around looking for motor options for the Vanquish, this is one of the ones that popped up on my radar. And the reason I wanted to take a look at it is because it's also only $35. So when I bought this, I bought it from Sunnysky USA. It cost me 35 bucks. It's shipped out of Ohio. And I got to give big props to Sunnysky. They got the motor to me in like 2 days. I was blown away how fast I got the motor, especially given what's going on out there with logistics and the virus. So let's get the Sunnysky out of the box. We'll take a look at it real quick and then we'll get it mounted on the Judge and go. Now, normally you guys know I don't do unboxes on camera. One of the things I wanted to show you is that this is it. It's just a simple box. Simple packaging, plastic wrap on the accessories, and it looks like they've got a bolt-on prop adapter, a radial mount, the bullet prop nut, and the wires already have the bullet connector soldered on. But the reason I'm showing this to you is because this is a budget option. There are more expensive, I'm not going to say nicer, but there are more expensive motors out there that come with a lot more packaging. So Sunnysky, I mean, they're saving a little money probably on the packaging, but that said, my first look, I don't see any reason, like it didn't cause me any problems. So let me get this thing unwrapped and we'll take a closer look. Alright, so there's a nice close-up look of the motor, and everything looks okay. I don't see any damage to the outside. I like the color scheme, it's kind of cool. That jet black is kind of all business. The markings on the front indicate X2820 800kv 600 and it says made in China, sunnysky.com. The windings look nice and tight, and one of their claims to fame is they say their windings are hand wound, and judging by what I see, I would believe that because it's very clean in there, very clean. There's no, one of the things you look for when you can tell when a machine does it is the wires will skip. You'll see them skip over. And these are in perfect order. On every pole, they're in perfect order from what I can see. Good heat shrink, sheathing going into the body of the motor. Cheaper motors, you'll see this doesn't always match up or it's not always secure, so I'm glad to see that. The base of the motor looks fine, and they use a collet with the grub screw instead of the E-clip, it looks like. Oh no, there's an E-clip down there as well, which is fine. Right, so that's the motor. Everything looks real good there. Real nice. And then the bolt-on prop adapter and the bullet nose prop nut. And they give you a standard prop nut as well, which, you know, that's cool because under a spinner you don't need the bullet nose prop nut. And then the radial mount. I pray that fits my Vanquish. I hope I don't have to do any modifications. I know on the SK3 it fit perfectly, so no changes required. Alright, I figured with the things going on with the virus, normally this is the kind of material I cut out of my videos, but with everything else going on, content's kind of rare, so let's spend a little time together. Why not? What else are we going to do? We're going to be sitting around for a while, and these holes obviously are offset, so you just got to line up the holes. And then for the screws, here's one of my favorite little tricks. I use this in hobby all the time. I just take a magnet and I stick it on my screwdriver, and that way while I'm using these little tiny screws down here, I'm not constantly fighting with them falling off my screwdriver. All right, see, I just put that screw on there now, and it just stays. So it just makes it easier when you're doing things that need both hands. So I just take a little bit of Loctite. I just dip the tip of the screw in some Loctite, and then I'll screw it in. You don't need to saturate the threads. That's not the point. You just want to put a little bit in there to kind of gum it up and keep it from coming unthreaded. And then when you're screwing this on, obviously don't wrench the first one down real tight, because what ends up happening is the holes aren't perfectly lined up, and then you end up risking cross-threading the other screws when you put them in. Okay, so just that's it. Little Loctite on the screw. Put that guy in there. Of course, because the motor has so many magnets, our magnets want to attach themselves to the shaft. And once you get the second one in, you can wrench a little bit. And that's another thing, by the way. You don't really need to wrench the devil out of these things. You just don't. You get them snug with that Loctite in there, and that's all you got to do. And the metal, one thing I've learned about these little screws that go on these motor mounts from China is that the heads can be a little soft. So you definitely don't want to monkey fist it. You just want to, just a little bit. That's it. See, just a little Loctite. That's all you need. Just a dab. That's all you need. You don't need to gob it up. Okay, now that all of those are in, I can get rid of my magnets for the moment. And now I'm just going to go back and just cinch them just a little bit. Just a little. That's it. That's all I do. And that way, when I need to take mine apart, I'm not constantly cross-threading. I learned that lesson early. Frequently, I'd get in there and I'd just tighten those things down, and every time I did, whenever I had to take these apart, I just had all kinds of issues. So it's just not a good idea. Here's one thing I didn't notice when I was going through the little unboxes. They give you a little extra circlip. Those things are gold. Save those, because they work on a lot of motors. I mean, this is a 5mm shaft, so that'll work on any 5mm motor if you need one. All right, same exact strategy for prop adapters. Just a little bit of Loctite. Don't wrench the devil out of it. I'll use a magnet just to hold my screws on there, and just a dab. That's it. I don't know if you can see that. It's so dark. Maybe you can't. I don't know. Is it going to focus? No? Let's try this one. No? All right. Well, you get the idea. Just a dab. Just a dab. That's all you need. Don't cake the whole thing up in Loctite. It's not necessary. All you're trying to do is keep this from coming undone. And if you don't use Loctite, shame on you. This is one area that I don't mess with. When it comes to my motors, I do not mess with it. I put a little bit of Loctite on everything that I screw into a motor, because this is the most. Nothing on the airplane moves as much as the motor. That's a fact. So you want to make sure it's secure. All right, like I said, guys, normally I chop this kind of stuff out of videos. I don't make you watch this, but I figure with the virus going on, content's going to become a premium. I know it is. I already run out of stuff to watch. So I figured, why not go through it together? And by the way, there are 2 E-clips, or circlips, or whatever. So I'm going to find a nice safe home for those in a baggie, and I'm going to put those right here in the Judge with all my other little extra motor parts, because that stuff is golden. And also, this is nice. I mean, it seems trivial in nature, but to give a couple of extra cross mounts or radio mount screws, that's a nice little touch. Why, these things are so cheap, and I know these manufacturers are working on thin margins, but machining process isn't always perfect. So if you get a couple of extras, why not? That's a nice little touch. I applaud that kind of thing. So Sunnysky, good on you. To steal a phrase from our Australian friends, good on you. Okay, this motor's ready to mount. So I'm going to go ahead and get her done. All right, if you're new to watching my videos on the Judge here, you'll notice that I use standoffs for the motors when I put them on this thrust plate. And the reason I do that is because I learned early on that if a motor uses one of those E-clips that I was talking about earlier and you don't get a little bit of separation, and while it's spinning, that E-clip hits one of these little tangs, that E-clip hits one of these little tangs in here, the E-clip goes flying off and the motor turns into a bullet and it shoots like a bullet straight ahead. So I learned real fast, standoffs are important. And then some of these motors also have that collet that I was telling you about, and then providing separation also avoids having that collet come in contact with the thrust plate. So that's why I always use standoffs now, and since I started doing that, I've never had a problem. Okay, so the motor is mounted. We'll connect these up, connect our wires up to the ESC. And I am using the batteries that I bought for the Vanquish, so these are brand new. I've probably put, well, I have flown the Vanquish a bit now, maybe 8 flights on the Vanquish, but I've got 4 of these batteries, so maybe 2 runs on each of these batteries. They're basically brand new. So that's what I'll be using to do this test. And the first thing I'll do the first thing you got to do before you put a prop on it is you have to run the motor up unloaded so you can get a kV measurement. And I do know this is a 14-pole motor, so that's how I've got my thrust stand set. And I'm just going to spool this thing up and check the kV value. It's supposed to be 800. Let's see what this motor does. (913 kV), and that's pretty normal. I'm seeing that quite a bit. I don't know if that's because this isn't lab grade gear or if the kV just sometimes comes out higher. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But what I can say is that my test stand never changes. That lets me make reasonable relative comparisons from motor to motor. Make sense? Okay, next thing to do will be to get I'm going to go ahead and start with the Master Air Screw 11x6 prop. And I want to use that first because I've got the numbers for the SK3 right here on my worksheet. All right, here we go. This is the Sunnysky x2820 800kv. I'm spinning 913 kV. I've got an 11x6 MAS, and we're using a 4-cell, a new 4-cell pack. So I'm going to spin this up. First, I'll listen to it and make sure everything sounds okay. And then once I've done that, I'll spin it up. I'll be looking for thrust and RPM. And then after the pull is done, I will gather the rest of the data static. So here we go. Quick little spool up just to listen to it, and then we're going to go. One thing I noticed, and I think I've noticed this on the other plane, I did balance this prop, but I've noticed at certain RPMs there's like a harmonic, and it's doing the same thing on this motor, which leads me to believe there's something in that prop at a certain RPM that it feels a little out of balance, and I can feel it vibrate. I'll be paying attention to that, but everything sounded good with the motor, so I'm gonna go for it. Here we go. I'll be looking for thrust and RPM. So 2667 on the thrust is what I saw. I'll check it in post to make sure I'm right. On amperage, I'm at 40.66. And the watts, we're at 635.5. Okay, so that pulls about 50 watts softer than the SK3. Oddly enough, 50 watts softer than the SK3. So there's the 11.6 MAS. I'm going to go ahead and put on the 12.6 APC. And just going to check the book to make sure I have it right. So in the book, they're saying that the max continuous current is 46 amps. And in that case, we were at 40. So we're under the max continuous. And the max power, they say, is 700 watts. So everything's okay so far. No worries. I've got a fresh battery. I'm going to switch the battery out, switch the prop out, and we're going to try it with the APC 12x6. Okay, here we go with the new 4S pack, and this is the 12x6 APC, and I'm curious. Okay, what they're saying is with a 12x6 on 4-cell to expect, they're saying 30, okay, this is what I'm talking about with motor data. This is why I do this. This is why I test this stuff. I want to just point this out to you guys, see if I can get it so you can see it here. Okay, they're saying, and I want to make sure I have the right motor selected too. I just need to verify I do. I have the 800 kV, and what they're saying is on a 12x6 at 14.8, that's a little low. I mean, 14.8, this is a 16, right now this is 16.6, so there's 2 volts less there, but what they're saying is 32.7 amps and 483 watts. So obviously that's not peak power. Maybe that's like this averaged power number. I'm not sure, but 14.8 is low for 4-cell. At any rate, they're saying 483 watts on a 4-cell. I already know it's going to be more than that because we had 600 watts on an 11x6. So it's clearly going to be more than that. Okay, here we go. I'm going to be looking for thrust. I'm going to spin it up and listen because it's new prop. And then after that, I'll be looking for thrust and RPM, and then I'll grab the watts and amps when it's static. And I do apologize, last time I missed the volts. I will get that in post-production when I look at the video. I didn't write it down, but I'll get that in post. All right, here we go. I'm just going to listen to this real quick. I need to balance that, but it's not bad. I'm not feeling any real vibration. I feel a little bit, so I will balance it, but it's fine for running a motor test. I'm not worried about that. All right, here we go. All right, so wow, interesting outcome, huh? Okay, so on a 12.6 APC, I made 37 amps. So that's 3 amps less than the master air screw, and the wattage is only 575. Isn't that something? I would never have guessed that. I gotta be honest, I would never have guessed that. So, and the volts, let me grab the volts real quick. 15.16 on the sag. Interesting. I would never have guessed that. I gotta tell you, I'm learning something about these master air screws. An 11.6 master air screw made more power on this particular motor than a 12.6. Fascinating. I wouldn't have guessed it. All right, I'm gonna top off these batteries because now I really want to find out what happens with a 12.6 master air screw because I'm leaving power on the table right now the way it sits. That is a fascinating outcome. All right, I've got a 12.6 and a 12.7 master air screw. I'm going to try the 12.6 master air screw first because based on what I just saw, the APC just got spanked. I can't believe that, man. I'm really surprised. I am really surprised. APC stock just went down a little bit in my book. Okay, E12.6, I got it. That is a 12.6. Master air screw, huh? Who would have guessed? You know, one thing I'll say is that I like the master air screw props. They look cool, you know. They're black with that silk screening on the blade. It looks kind of cool on the Vanquish. It really does. I think it looks neat. All right. That's on there. Both the batteries look like they're real close to being topped off. They're both 4.2 right now, so I'm going to go ahead and grab one of them. I'll let the other one finish topping, but I've got one reading at 4.2, so it's good enough to test. Close enough. Okay, this is a 4S pack with a 12x6 MAS. Okay, I'm going to spin it up a little bit and listen to the prop, make sure nothing's out of balance, and then if everything's good there, I'm going to punch it. I'll be looking for thrust and RPM. So here we go. There's a certain range where I feel a little bit of vibration. It's like it's not there at a low RPM and it's not there at high, but there's this one little range in the middle where I feel it. But it's, again, not enough to stop me from running a test. So here we go. Thrust and RPM. Okay, I got 3143 on the thrust and I got 9878 on the RPM. The motor still feels cool. It's a little warm, but it's not hot, so I'm not worried about that. And power wise, we're looking at 697 on the watts, and I'm looking at 44.8 on the amps. That's 44.9 on the amps. I'm rounding up a little bit. The volt sag was 1504. And that's it. Okay, well that's the prop then, because I'm going to just check my numbers real quick. And they're saying max continuous current is 46 amps. I could actually hit it a little harder. I could hit it a little harder. What else do I have? 12.7. I don't necessarily want this to go faster. You know what? All right, so I'm just going to stop there, because on this prop I gained, here's the key number for me, is I got more thrust, right? I'm at 3143 on the thrust, and on the amperage I'm slightly lower. These master air, I'm going to tell you something right now. This motor is pulling 44.9 with a 12.6 master air screw. The SK3 pulled 45.6, so more amps, less thrust, smaller prop. Okay, so it just dawned on me that I just did a comparison against the SK3 with an 11.6 and the Sunnysky with a 12.6, and here's the deal. The Sunnysky pulled 0.7 amps less, made a little bit more in watts input, but here's the real number. 3143 on the thrust. That's 519 grams more thrust. And the amperage is lower. So, if you guys were ever wondering about these efficiency claims by Sunnysky, there's some proof right there, because this is the same exact setup that I used on that SK3. Now, that SK3 made good power, but look at it from an efficiency standpoint. Thrust to watts is better. I'm going to do the math. Okay, so here's what I want to know. We have 3143 divided by 697. That is 4.5 to 1 on thrust to watts. Okay, so from an efficiency standpoint, 4.5 to 1. Let's check what we did on the SK3. 2624 divided by 681. The SK3 with an 11x6 did 3.8 to 1. So there's the comparison that I would make. The comparison that I would make is I would say that the Sunnysky, and granted it's a bigger prop, you know, it's not an exact comparison, but the Sunnysky is doing really well on efficiency. I got 4.5 to 1 against 3.8 to 1 on the SK3. So what does that mean? You say, well, what does that mean? Well, I get more thrust for less amps. That's what it means. Less power consumed. My amp draw was lower at max thrust than it was on the SK3, and that tells me that this Sunnysky is a little bit more efficient. So for that reason, I'm going to stick it in the plane. I'll let you guys know how it flies, but I can tell you right now that it's going to fly better because it's making 500 more grams of thrust. Let's do that math. Let's see. It is 519 divided by 2624. That's 20% more. Yeah, it's about 20%. That's exactly right. So the Sunnysky is producing 20% more thrust for the same cost in amperage. That's efficient. And that's what people, when I was into long range FPV, that's one of the things people really went on about with these Sunnysky motors, is how efficient they were. They weren't necessarily the big powerhouse on the block, but they were efficient. And I'm seeing the same thing. I'm only making 697 input watts, but my thrust is 3143. That's 519 grams stronger. And remember, I couldn't use the 12.6 master air screw on the SK3 because it put the motor over spec. For that reason, I think this is a pretty nice little combination. It looks like an efficient motor and a powerful prop. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed the review and the unbox on the Sunnysky 2820. I will be putting this on the Vanquish, and when it's time to get back in the field, this will be the motor I run. And I'll let you know how it goes when that happens. If you're new to the channel, I would definitely appreciate your subscription if you enjoyed this content. And for those of you who've been around for a while, keep talking, keep commenting. I enjoy your company, and let's get through this together, all right? Take it easy. Have a good night.